This podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
Between the time when gamers played with miniatures and chainmail and the rise of the Wizards of the Coast, there was an age of advanced role-playing undreamed of. And onto the Skygax, destined to bear the jeweled crown of TSR upon a troubled brow, it was given to teach us all how to roll for initiative.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
The Roll for Initiative podcast, volume number 3, issue number 140. DM Vince sitting with DM Matt.
Hello, everyone.
DM Chad.
Yo.
DM Nick.
Excelsior!
No. So we're back with another show. Chad is back here, so you can retain from vomiting in your puke bags because there's no more Christmas this week.
That's right. Today it's not coming out the mouth.
Ew. For those folks at home, we do not condone his comments on this podcast. Oh, sorry. So anyway, we got a great show for you this week. We're going to be reviewing a good OSR-related product. But first, over to Nick for some stars.
Okay. Yeah, we got a 5-star review by Stinky the One-Eyed Ogre. And just to remind everybody, you can head over to iTunes and search for us on the iTunes store, Roll for Initiative, and look up ratings and reviews. And you can post a review, good, bad, indifferent, meh, if you want. We shall read them. So here's what Stinky has to say. He says, great cast.
Yarg.
Exactly. This podcast is an essential tool for RPG gamers. They cover a lot of material and are quite knowledgeable on the subject. If you have been out of gaming for a while, just getting into gaming, or just curious about AD&D First Edition, you will find this to be very entertaining and informative. The hosts, like everyone, have their personal highs and lows, but for the most part are on their game. The addition of DM Chad to the current mix seems to have added a new spark into the show. But yeah, there you go. Shout out there for DM Chad. But each member of the group, and in parentheses, even Crispy, brings something unique to the show. So even Crispy brings something.
Yeah.
Even though it might be puke.
Hey.
It's bring it. No. So thank you, Stinky the One-Eyed Ogre, for the 5-star review on iTunes. So
Yay. And if they want to leave a 5-star review, how do they do that, Nick?
So you go over to iTunes and you type in on the iTunes store, Roll for Initiative, go to ratings, reviews, and you could select write a review from there.
Why do you say it like that? Why do you say the iTunes store?
Because it is the iTunes store.
The way you say it is funny. It reminds me of how Sheldon said it on The Big Bang Theory when his mom was talking.
Oh, well.
I will go to the iTunes store. Anyway, cool. Cool. Give you a little community there. Cool.
Yeah.
So, Chad, what have you been doing since we didn't see from you from last week?
Well, outside of a whole lot of work at work, I've actually started up a new play-by-post game over from our listeners. Several of them have joined the game, and we finally gotten into the process of creating characters. So that's kind of fun. And outside of that, for those of you who have been enjoying the Dead Game Society podcast, you should check it out because the new episode 3 just went up, and it's a really cool interview with Pagan Publishing founder John Tynes, one of the guys who created Delta Green.
Oh.
Yeah, so that should be really interesting. I took the interview actually a couple of years ago, but yeah, well, it's an old interview, so if you're listening to it and you're like, well, wait a minute, that already happened.
He's Critical Wits method of recording.
No, it's the BBC, how the BBC does it, you know?
Back in time. But yeah, the idea was it was originally supposed to go up on the podcast a long time ago, but we only just recently got the podcast up. So enjoy. And that's about all I've been doing.
Share and enjoy.
Sharon and Karen.
What about you, Nick?
What about me? Actually, not a whole lot as far as the gaming's concerned. The only thing I've been doing is preparing for my next campaign. And what we're going to be reviewing today is going to be an integral part of it. So,
Dun, dun, dun.
yeah, so it's going to be very, very cool. Something I've been wanting to do for a while. And hopefully my group will enjoy it. So, don't want to reveal too much right now. So,
all right.
It's going to be very old school.
Spoiler, everybody dies.
Hey, there are going to be some save or die certain situations there. So
Hey, that's infringement on another podcast. Knock it off.
we're part of the same happy family.
Okay.
Aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great.
If that goes hammer when they're the redheaded stepchild that we don't
Well, you know them.
Yeah.
There's there's always one.
Yeah, part of the same family, not necessarily happy.
So, anyway. That's, Save or Die podcast. That's for them. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt, did we ask what you were doing this?
We don't care what Matt's doing. So.
No, I know you don't care, but I'm going to talk about it anyway.
Probably some wrestling crap.
Actually, this time it's not because I actually gamed. Me and my...
Nuh-uh.
Yes, I know.
You lie.
I know, blaspheme. I actually rolled some dice.
Liar.
Slap me across
Was
the
it
face
a
and call me
wrestling
Shirley.
game?
No, it was not. It involved my Ravenloft campaign.
Ooh, do tell.
Tell us.
Yes. Well, my party ended up shipwrecked off the coast of Mordenshire. So, as they were getting off, they happened to encounter a were stingray that happened to bite the magic user of the group.
A were stingray?
Yeah, were stingray.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's not
Man, I
as bad as a
hope he
were
doesn't-
flump.
Yeah, I hope this guy doesn't hit a full moon while he's on dry land.
Yeah,
Too
that's
bad he
bad
did.
news.
And he actually had last watch, because this is how they found out how he actually was. Because he was on last watch, and he just blacked out. But then when everyone wakes up, he's all wet and drenched the next morning. And they're like, something's
And
up.
he was embarrassed.
Yes.
Oh, wait, no, that's something
And
else.
at that point, the party decided to put him in a brig and lock him up
Oh, dear.
because he can't be trusted.
Well, as long as they keep him in the center of the boat,
Yeah,
what's the
Yeah,
worst
should
that could happen?
exactly. Well, he's got a really long tail when you morph with the stingray and
Where stingray?
Where's Stingray? So,
Okay.
and then it became a wacky adventure of them trying to figure out how to cure a stingray. Where Stingray?
Wow.
Fortunately for them, they happened to be in Mordenshire, which is home of Dr. Rudolf von Richten.
Oh, thank God.
Yes.
Hey, well, at least there's a doctor in the house.
Too bad, though, he's lost. He disappeared 6 months ago.
So he was on the plane. Oh, never mind.
Yes. He's trying to open the vault. And then they find the two daughters that are running the store for him. They're daughters of actually the mayor, and we're basically getting intertwined with a lot of the House on Griffin Hill stuff. So,
Well, you need to introduce the most dreaded of all lycanthropes, the wereflump.
I don't think they're ready for that yet. I need to level them up a little bit more. Maybe after they do battle with and vanquish Strahd, maybe they'll be ready to deal with a wereflump.
Yes. You morph into it, and you just kind of just sit there.
The werewolf, a.k.a. Scooby-Dum.
Scooby-Doo, yes.
Were gelatinous cube.
Oh, God.
Feeling kind of oozy lately.
Yes.
You come back from that? I mean, becoming a gelatinous cube and then go back to being a human? I mean, come on.
Well,
There's got to be some sanity loss involved.
it depends on how you adjudicate their memories while they're a Lanthrocorp. Do they remember everything, or do they just black out?
But if you're going into a big giant cube of nothingness, what happens to your bones and everything else? It becomes part of the gelatinous mold?
Yes.
And then it goes right back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah, that is magic, all right.
It's magic. You don't have to explain it.
Exactly.
Well, remember in the first X-Men movie, what was the character's name anyway? The senator,
The senator,
who
yes.
goes all kind of clear and oozy looking.
Yep.
Yes.
I can imagine that as like the beginning transition.
But he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, that did happen.
Right. Yeah, that did happen.
Yeah.
And Mystique took over for him, so...
Yeah. If Bruce Banner can morph into the Hulk and keep his pants, I think morphing to and fro as a wearer...
Sweatpants. Yes. He had purple sweatpants on. They stretch.
Yes.
Purple sweatpants, even though he could be wearing a suit when he morphs. He grows...
Get his suit.
It's magic. It doesn't need to make sense.
It's underwear that's fun to wear.
Yes.
Underoos.
Oh, God.
Oh.
All right, now we're getting to a really weird area.
I wasn't the one that said after the wake up and... Never mind. That was Chad.
Oops.
Yeah.
Keira Knightley?
What about...
Never mind.
No, Nicole Richie. There, enough said. No one has anyone to say about that.
No.
Boom! As we fall off the cliff.
Responses to that one.
No, I got nothing.
Yeah. Anyway, so I really haven't been doing much gaming myself. Just been kind of chilling out, working a lot of hours. But I'm going to be starting. I want to start up that online game really badly. Just haven't had a chance to sit down and write some stuff up. I know, Chad, you wanted to join in that game, and I apologize.
Hey, no, I understood.
Yeah.
Not a problem. You'll get to it.
Speaking of getting to it, in June, the North Texas RPG Con will be hitting the DFW area.
Cool.
So if you are in Texas, you enjoy old school, definitely go to the North Texas RPG website and sign up to come down for the fun. There'll be a lot of people there, a lot of TSR alumni.
Yeah.
It's a lot like GaryCon. So if you've been to GaryCon, this is like almost the same thing, except there's no Gygaxes there.
And people are wearing cowboy hats.
Yeah. Hey. No one's wearing a cowboy. Well, actually, there might be one person, so I can't say that.
Yeah, actually, at the end of this month, we'll be GaryCon, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yes,
well,
indeed.
1 week by the time you hear this, but
I'm looking forward to it.
come on down. If you're going to GaryCon, find Chad. He'll be the guy wearing the RFI shirt if he has one.
I should get one.
There was a really good sale the other day for RFI shirts through the website that we go through. They had 50% off your entire order for 1 day only for shirts. So if you could buy a shirt for like $9.
Oh, wow.
You missed out, Sean.
I did miss out on that one. That would have been good.
Shame on you.
Yeah.
I got to get a new one when before I go to Origins this year. So.
Well, what you could do is go right to our site and click on the little graphic, I think, that says shirts. If we still have it up, I have to look.
I can. Can I do that? That is amazing.
Yeah, you can, Nick. You can click on that and go purchase yourself a wonderful new old school retro throwback t-shirt.
Well, I would like that when I go to Origins Game Fair down in Columbus, Ohio.
Wow, you really pre-programmed that one, didn't you?
Yes.
That's a smooth.
Thank you. That is my announcer voice.
Now, will it stretch with me when I Hulk out?
No, it will not.
Depends on the shirt. Because they have a wide variety of shirts. You can get your basic t-shirt. You can get a value t-shirt. You can get
Would
American
you say
Apparel
they have a plethora?
They have a plethora.
What is a plethora?
And then while you're there, you can also pick up some shirts for some other Wild Games Productions podcasts as well. So collect them all.
Ooh.
That's
Gotta
right.
Trade them with your friends.
And Valentine's Day is just around the yearly corner, so nothing says, I love you, baby.
Or if
than
you're
an
in
RFI
Ohio.
t-shirt.
Ohio, sweetest day in September.
Yes, and Easter is coming up soon, too, so stuff one into an egg and give it into your loved one.
Yes.
Or President's Day.
Secretary's Day.
All right, we're done.
Okay.
Let's go to Sage Advice.
Sage advice.
What happened to 1?
3, sire.
One's the loneliest number.
Yes.
Of the ball. So, okay, we got a bunch of emails for Sage Advice this week and a bunch of voicemails coming to you live from the voicemail hotline of 570-865-4210, where Nick stands by.
No, he does not.
Well, if you want to write, you can write us to rfistaff@gmail.com or head directly to rfipodcast.com and click on the contact the show or email the host. And we have a little form you can fill out there, and it directly sends an email to our email address for you in case you're lazy.
Where we read them on the crapper.
Well, I don't know about you. Maybe I do, but you know. First one.
Just be careful if I loan you a book during a game.
Oh.
Yeah,
It may be flagged.
Yes, Costanza.
Costanza.
George Costanza bringing the book into the bathroom so we can go to the bathroom.
Then trying to return it.
Anywho.
First email comes from David D. And he says, "Hello, esteemed Dungeon Masters. First, I'd like to say I really enjoy the Missing Player podcast." We did a miss. Oh, we did, yeah. In fact,
Oh, yes, yeah.
I was like, "There's a Missing Player podcast." I thought technical there for a minute. Sorry. In fact, a week after listening to it, I bought Zombies card and tile game that DM Nick discussed at a convention and loved it. I would also thank you for introducing me to Roll20.net. I have successfully DM'd my first online game that was able to pull together some of my old gamer buddies from the 80s. Now on to my question. I was trying to run some first level characters through the Village of Hamlet module. And was wondering if you have ever reviewed it, or maybe that mysterious Blackmore guy. Just looking for a few tips on running it. If so, please let me know what issue to find it in. Thanks. Keep rocking it, David D. So who's the Blackmore guy?
I think it means Lord Blackstone. But yes, there was a review of Temple of Elemental Evil that was done. I don't remember what one. Matt, our producer, with his wizardry producing skills, probably looked that up and put that in show notes or something like that. But we have done one, and I've run that module a couple of times.
Yeah, I've run that one a couple times too. It's a great module series.
Village of Hamlet was integrated into Temple of Elemental Evil.
Yeah.
I don't think there really is a whole lot of changes, as far as I recall.
I can't think of any major changes.
There might have been some minor editorial stuff. I think they cleaned up some of the editorial faux pas when they put the super module out. But other than that, I can't really think of anything that, as far as running it, I would say this. Just spoiler alert coming right now, whoever's listening. When they get to the moat house, there's the bandits there. That could easily come into a TPK situation because the bandits are in the moat house. They are all around. There's arrow slits for the bandits to shoot out of. And if the party isn't smart and recon the place before they go charging in, like Sir Lancelot and Monty Python and the Holy Grail, they're going to get slaughtered.
Yeah. Now, if they don't just charge in, and like you said, if they're smart about it, and again, it's a spoiler, but you can run the bandits however you want, but there should only be one of them on watch at the time.
But if he sees people coming up,
then he'll raise the alarm.
Yeah, he'll raise the alarm. They're all batting down the hatches, and there's a whole section in there how they pretty much defend the moat house.
Exactly.
That Gygax wrote in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
now I did mine though a little differently though, because when I ran the Village of Hamlet, I wanted things to kind of gel all the different creatures that you see in there, because it's a very traditional style of TSR module writing where you have various monsters in their room. Really they don't flesh out any reasoning behind it. So what I did, and to help out the low level players that were going into that into the moat house, I said that I set up this whole thing where the bandits are actually barricaded themselves into one corner because they've encountered some of these creatures and lost many of their members, and those that are still surviving are now infighting amongst themselves because the leader refuses to leave and the others want to leave, and so there's all this drama going on with them.
Yeah, you could play it that way. I remember reading later on after I went through that whole section in the moat house like you're talking about with the bandits. There is some sort of indication that the bandits don't know about what's in the dungeon level.
Right, and
it doesn't appear that they've gone down there.
Yeah, I played them up as they're looters. You know, they've gone in to see what they can find and what's not bolted to the floor. You know,
and whatever they found down there.
Yeah, exactly. They're
like,
So they're definitely not at full strength. And if the players play their cards right, they could even ally themselves with the bandits. Yeah. Because the bandits, you know, while not normally the nicest people in the world, they're frightened right now too.
Yeah.
At least in the way I run it.
I remember my current group, my daughter Anna and her friends, when they went through the moat house, one of the characters, how they played it, very smart. Like they did recon it. They set up like the two thieves in the party, one being they had a regular, I think, a magic user thief and a gnome illusionist thief. They kind of reconned ahead, and along with the ranger too, by the way.
Right.
And the ranger, Anna's character, part of her background was there's this green dragon in the gnarly forest that killed her family. And the gnome illusionist thief goes, "Tell me everything you know about that green dragon." And she's like, "Well, why?" Because I'm going to make the best illusion of that green dragon. I'm going to drop it right on him.
Oh, nice.
So that's what she did. She made this great, elaborate illusion of this green dragon, like coming in right into the courtyard area and scaring the bejesus out of all the bandits. So, and they fell for it, which worked really well because they then like all retreated. They were like running out of there, and they were picking off bandits that were running outside of the moat house. So that worked out really well with them.
Yeah, and you know, if you're one of those players who's listening and saying right now, well, yeah, but I don't want to meta play it. You know, I mean, it's an abandoned moat house. Why would I? You know, well, one way you could do it, or if you're a DM at least running it, you could play up this whole. You know, before they leave Hamlet, they could be getting rumors about there's a group of bandits that are kind of been hitting a lot of the outlying farmlands and everything, and you know, it's some of the people, some of the you know, huntsman who came into town the other day said he saw a fire out at the old moat house.
Yeah,
you know, this tips them into the fact that there could be somebody out there. And
I played it up to where the player character party was employed by the Viceroy of Verbabank, which is the city that is nearby Hamlet.
Yeah,
Verbobnik. Hamlet being in the domain of that city, they were hired on. They go down there because they hear there's been raids on the trade routes, the caravans, by various types of bandits, goblins, gnolls, and what have you. And he sent the party down to Hamlet to investigate. And one of their, I'm trying to remember which NPC in Hamlet he's one of the, I guess he's a spy.
Yeah, well, are you talking? Oh, yeah. For a minute there, okay. Yeah, there's a whole cast of characters in that.
Yeah, and you could play that up to where, you know, maybe he's their contact within the town.
Exactly.
And you can play it up that you don't know who to trust in the town either.
Mm-hmm.
And there's very good reason not to trust everybody in the town. So there's a lot of different ways you can play up. So there's, you know, just some few tips that you can use. I mean, hopefully give you some ideas in running Village of Hamlet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. That's why I'm here.
Yes, that is why
help me help you.
you just earned yourself 2 coppers.
coppers. I want electrum pieces. Electrum pieces. Come on.
You'll have to talk to my accountant, Matt. So
Okay, I can work on it.
I'd like some myrrh.
Myrrh.
All out of myrrh, but I got some frankincense here.
Okay.
We'll give
Are
you
they
away.
anything like frankenberries?
Yes, they are.
Sure, if you want them to be.
Nice. Awesome.
Chad,
far
you
as I
get a bottle of dark water from the dark parts of dark water. There you go.
That sounds
think you would
sketchy.
drink
Not like the
Next,
yellow
no.
snow, is it? Okay.
No, it's next email comes in from Jeremy. He writes, "Hey RFI crew, I'm an avid listener who has gone through the entire backlog to catch up and thoroughly enjoy the podcasts. Well, thank you. We all thank you. Unfortunately, I have never had the pleasure of playing AD&D. Wow. Oh. I'll chalk that up to a lack of groups where I live. I drive much of my work day and appreciate something that keeps me interested and not in the ditch."
Okay, well, glad to keep you alive and awake.
Yeah, really. Cool. A few comments about last episode. Nick, shut up. No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
It
that's
said-
okay. I can deal with that.
So I would like to give you stars and be rewarded in walk-ins. I like
Oh, thanks. That's great. Wow.
See? you got personal walk-in.
What is that, like walk-in-ease?
Yeah, kind of. But I listen on my Android phone. Oh, I'm sorry. I use an RSS feed catcher for podcasts and really have no issues once I input the show's URL. RSS URL. I use Dogcatcher, but there are many. Hope that helps the listener from the last show. I guess someone asked on the last show about that.
Yeah, they were
So
having.
they're having a problem with the feed.
Yeah. One geographical mistake I must point out while everybody was talking about their tri-state area, in quotes, is that Nick said one was Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana. I would be remiss if I did not point out that Indiana would actually be Iowa. I know because I live there. Show Iowa some love. Again, I love your show and sing along with the Sage Advice Lounge song is sung. Keep up the good work. Sage Advice. Sage
Well, if you live in Chicago, they refer to the tri-state area as Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana. They do. If you live in the Chicago metro area.
Show
No.
love. Iowa needs love.
Well,
Iowa needs a football team, but yeah.
That might be some harsh words there, Chad.
Well, I'm from Nebraska, and I give no love to Iowa, so bleh.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. You just
But keep on listening, Jeremy.
yeah. Okay.
That
Next,
just saved him from a ditch, by the way, so pat yourself on the back.
Oh, that's cool, Jeremy. I love driving through Iowa.
you probably enraged him enough to keep him awake now at this point.
It's all good.
Yeah. Next email comes in from Brian, editor of N Magazine.
Oh, hey, Brian.
He says, I really enjoyed number 136 Artifacts. The discussion was really great. However, I disagree that artifacts should be created according to any formula. The ideas in the DMG are great for new DMs, but it reduces artifacts to a list of stats. The PCs in my campaign created a new artifact. They didn't know they were doing it and had no control over the process, but they were instrumental in the creation. In my opinion, artifacts should not be intentionally created. It should be accidentally or a side effect of something else. In my case, the lead fighter's sword was broken in a fall, so he had nothing that could touch the big bad evil guy at the end of the adventure. The sword was a cleric-made frost sword that did ugly things to non-cold-based creatures and uglier things to the fire giants. Cool. The player kept the shards and kept talking about getting it reforged. Taking his desire into account, it was reforged at the behest of a Children? Cieldrn? Is that Children? Children? I don't know how to pronounce that. I apologize. The chief dwarven god of my campaign. The sword had a limited lifespan, 24 hours, due to the nature of the reforging. The plan was for the big bad evil guy, a creature of the elemental chaos, to escape so they'd have to chase it from city to city, and the PCs would pick up a replacement sword along the way. Just go to the 9 and 10 dime store and pick one up. But it didn't work out.
Swords are us, you know.
Yeah, swords are us. Didn't work out that way. The party managed to kill the big bad evil guy before it could escape. Note to all DMs. If the party managed to kill your special big bad evil guy before you expect it, suck it up.
And then flame strike them all.
Yeah, he's Chad. The players earn their victory. Invent something new for the next adventure. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled email. I decided on the fly that the power of the two gods, infused with the power of the destruction of the terrible enemy from eons ago, produced an artifact. This one has absolutely no history, so there is no research, no way to find out what it does without practical experimentation. The player is figuring out the powers over time. Plus, I don't have to nail everything down up front. I'm making it up as I go, deciding what new things fit the existing pattern. By the way, artifacts do not have serious banes. It's actually more fun to have a few minor banes that are more of an irritation rather than, oh, gods, I'm turning into Golem. Brian. Whew.
Well, I'm a little confused, though. Is he saying then that all artifacts are created by accident?
He's saying they should be created by accident.
But not all of them are.
No, I know. He's saying that they should be.
I was going to say, how would one accidentally create, like, the Marvelous Nightingale?
Right. Or the Sword of Kos.
Well, maybe I'm just misunderstanding what he said. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's campaign should be the way that, works for you and your group. So if his party enjoys it that way, then that is the correct way to do it.
Yeah, in his game world, if that's how it is, that's fine.
Cool. Yeah. There we go. I make up artifacts as I go along like he does and just kind of add things on just to make it fun.
I would say that would be a good way to go. Yeah.
Write them down, of course, so you know.
Yeah, and make that note later on. It's like, okay, last time it did this.
I cast Fireball with it. What? What? Don't forget what it could do. How are you doing that?
Actually, it only casts Firefinger. Oh.
Okay, so the last email comes in from DM Raul, a.k.a. Angelic Doctor from the forums, in our OSR forums. He writes in and talks about the corrected Cavalier we spoke about in issue number 138.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically disagrees with the fact that it was an overreaction by the fans that pressured TSR into doing the errata and pretty much calling everybody a baby and throwing out the bathwater along with the baby. He said he's never had a problem running it in 30 years of as a dungeon master or a player. Maybe that was just he's a minority in this regard. He said he plays it as written and he's never had a problem. He said even the new version of it in second edition was worthless. He said there was no problems. What would you do to change the class to make it better for your group?
I'd probably get rid of it, but I've never seen the real need for it. But keep going.
The only thing he agrees with was having to charge into battle towards the greatest foe. That was a good idea to pull that out.
Mm-hmm.
But never had a problem with the class with any of his players or groups. He wants to know, do we think the changes were a good thing? Will we change some of his changes or just leave it as it is? And he thanks us. I never had a problem with the Cavalier myself as it was. I did think it was a little powerful in a sense, but I think the 148 of Dragon that they redid it did really crush
the hell out of it.
Yeah, it nerfed the heck out of it is right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did run a guy who played it, and this guy was kind of a power gamer, and it just became for me, it just became kind of a headache because, I mean, he was constantly coming up and telling me, oh, well, I'm raising this stat, and I can do this, and oh, look this up. And then finally, the final straw was, he's trying to convince me that because Cavaliers, are, they should be able to specialize in weapons also. I was like, good grief, dude, no. Maybe if I played with a different person playing the Cavalier, somebody who wasn't trying to go a mile with an inch, it wouldn't be so bad, but my experience. And plus, my whole view on it was that, I never really saw the need for the class to begin with. Why can't a fighter be a knight? I mean,
because you won't get all those special bells and whistles.
And why does a Cavalier get the ability to do this, but a fighter doesn't? I mean,
because a fighter's a fighter and a Cavalier's a Cavalier.
Fighter is just someone that just knows how to go out and fight with the sword and armor. A
He's a
cavalier.
sword
Well, there's different, but remember our episode on fighters. There are a lot of different interpretations on fighter. You know,
Yes.
I mean, that guy could be a noble, and he would have
Could
the same
be.
upbringing as the cavalier,
but he doesn't have the special training a cavalier would have.
True.
which is to ride a horse.
No. No, not necessarily.
I'm just saying,
It's all the special bells and whistles that the cavalier class was.
They're brought up to know which side of the plate to put their fork on, which makes them a nightmare in combat.
No, oh no.
Having to charge into battle against your Grayskull was pretty dumb. I agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And the stats where you can change them, I think.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
Some
those
of
two-
the other things, I don't know.
I like
I
the
never-
whole fear thing. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
He's not afraid of things. I like that because I've watched plenty of movies, TV shows where there's knights and they don't seem to be afraid of anything. So
Right. I'm not sure. I've never.
this is a rabbit.
Yeah. It's behind a rabbit. Stupid sod. Now, I've never had a problem with the Cavalier as written in the Unearthed Arcana. I mean, I've created one. I've had a few years ago someone played Cavalier. I mean, it can be kind of silly. It's like he was playing it to where, yeah, I'm going to be charging in and he's trying to kill and destroy an illusion, and it's not working. But that,
Well, I
it
just,
seems
when they bring out the
single-minded.
Cavalier, it makes it obsolete. It's like, well, now they have a Cavalier, which is a noble fighter. Therefore, if you are a fighter, you cannot be a knight. Or if you can be a knight, then why is it your noble knightly fighter doesn't get all the perks that the Cavalier gets? They grew up in the same station. They're both knights.
You
Because the
can
player didn't pick that class.
Because
pretty much
that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can play any way you want, Chad. You can, if someone wants to play,
A clown.
then you make up the clown class, and then,
Clowns are broken.
But I mean, as far as the revised Cavalier,
Awesome. Clown.
I'm actually looking at trying it out in my next campaign just to see how it works. I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad. I haven't tried it.
As written in Unearthed Arcana or with the errata?
The errata.
Yeah, if I were to do it again, it'd be the one from Dragon, though. It'd be the quote unquote corrected Cavalier.
I think I would just do Cavalier, knock down the hit dice like it says. I don't think they need 12 hit dice. Knock down the statistic crap that they have. Get rid of the charge towards foe and relieve the arm alignment class restriction.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just put you can't be chaotic. You have to be lawful or something.
Okay. That would make sense. I would think they would have to be lawful. I don't think
just
chaotic
lawful.
would work for. I don't think chaotic would work for a Cavalier. It just doesn't seem right to me.
No, you're probably right. And neutral probably wouldn't work too well either. So I guess lawful has to stay there.
Yeah, they could be lawful neutral, lawful good, or lawful evil. I could definitely see a lawful evil Cavalier for sure.
Yeah, there just seems to be too much order in their culture.
Yeah,
So,
because
yeah.
it's just I mean, they call it Cavalier. It's really the knight class,
Right.
if you think about
Right.
it.
And here's another thing to think about. If they have to be, I can't remember. Did you guys? I'd have to look at it again. They have to be lawful, right?
Lawful good.
Or
They have to start lawful good apparently for the book.
Well, apparently the Paladin's a subclass of the Cavalier, according to Unearthed Arcana. So where does that put the anti-Paladin?
Garbage.
It's an NPC. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Put it in the garbage because no one wants to play that class.
Yeah, it's an NPC class anyway. It's not access to player characters.
Here we go. Fix to the class. Just grab the Dragonlance book and use the knights out of there.
Knights of Salami.
Yeah.
Knights of Salami, yes, that's correct.
The Knights of Lunch Meat.
The Knights of Lunch Meat. Yum.
It's a nice pastrami.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I am. You know what? I'll let our writer know how it works out with the corrected Cavalier class in my next campaigns. And how it pans out if someone plays one.
All right, so then in my game, if I ever get it off the ground, we'll have someone play the Unearthed Arcana modified version that I'm talking about in my game.
And we can make comparisons.
Yeah, and then I'll win.
That's I don't know about that, but we'll make a fair comparison of the two through actual play.
Yes, Chad, you're going to play my corrected Cavalier. I decided that's your class. That's what you're playing.
I'm quite happy with that. I will lord it over the fighters.
Okay, you will lord it over the fighters.
Okay,
you go die for me.
Yes. Cool. Anyway, let's head on to our voicemails. 570-865-4210. We have some voicemails, and here's the first one.
Hey guys, I love your show. I've listened to most of the episodes, but confession, I've never actually played AD&D. I grew up in Mississippi, born in the 70s, so about the time a normal, youth would have gotten into it, it was still the devil, and thereby forbidden. And I got steered towards Marvel and other things. And as an adult, I've kind of circled back around and been fascinated, particularly with all the OSR stuff. Got into Guardia and then just kind of expanded to there to all the different products and of course, your podcast. But I have since bought all 3 reprints of the DMG, the Player's Guide, and the Monster Manual. And I've read them. But if I were to gather a group of friends together, all of which would have probably never played a role-playing game, I wouldn't really know where to begin. Like, would you guys consider an episode for someone like me who has the books but doesn't really know where to start in terms of putting together something for them to do, helping them roll characters, the whole 9 yards? Like, would you guys consider just a beginner's guide to AD&D in the sense of someone's bought the books, has the dice, but doesn't know where to start, and has a night plan of friends to give it a shot? So kind of from beginning to end, having people sort of roll up characters and have a little, a sequence of events for them to try and play through and what all that might entail, and try and be prepared for. And anyway, but again, love the show. Love you all. Hope you're doing okay. And thank you very much for your time.
Well, that's kind of like, I think he's looking for a primer type thing, maybe.
Yeah, I think he's looking for a way like, hey, he's got a group they've never role played before. Now, how would they go through playing AD&D, just like a one-shot type of game with some characters, and see how it goes? I would be hip to doing that for a show, kind of a walkthrough how they could go through that process. That'd be pretty cool.
It's something we have to discuss, how to figure out how to break that down into segments so it's listenable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure, I think we could do it. We could do anything.
We can do it.
My first thought too was if he's with a group of players that are just playing for the first time, he might want to start with something like the Moldvay set. Mm-hmm. Because it's got the Caves of Keep on the Borderlands in it, right. And it's geared towards people who are just playing for the first time. Yeah.
Still kind of written that way of the Gygaxian tone.
Mm-hmm.
I go with the Menser edition because the Menser edition has that solo walkthrough adventure going. Right.
There's also the walkthrough adventure in the DMG though.
In the DMG though, that would seem like more of a kind of example though.
Yeah.
No, you could use that one. You could take that and create.
Yeah, but
some of it's keyed.
The way it's written now, I think you'd want to go through something if you never played before. Go through the Frank Menser Red Box edition.
Mm-hmm.
That has that wonderful, really cool walk.
Somebody did write up that example in the Dungeon Master's Guide and did a whole complete keyed adventure for that.
Well,
and
that'd be cool.
So I have to look that up. I know someone's done it.
So. All right.
Well, but yeah, I think any of the original basic or classic sets would be good. Holmes has In Search of the Unknown, which is pretty good, and Moldvay had Keep on the Borderlands, which is another classic.
And that's
and Mincer does a great job of guiding you through the process as well.
I think it's more of a not the adventure itself, more of reading the rules, what to do here, what to do there is what he's talking.
And, and that's where I think
doing character creation.
Right. I would even start with just letting them use pre-gens for those adventures. Don't just so they can just play and just tell them, I'll tell you what dice to roll. You just tell me what you want to do. I'll figure out how to do it.
Right. And
this is something we'll have to talk about. I think we can do a show, something like that. Beginner's Guide to AD&D.
Yeah.
Or the RFI AD&D Primer.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, you're in charge.
Okay, I can make it happen.
Make it happen.
We'll get a committee and we'll talk about it.
Okay. I'll have my people call your people.
All right. Sounds fabulous.
And for his first party's characters, they should have a Unearthed Edition, a Barbarian Cavalier,
an anti-paladin,
a monk,
Matt,
and a Wujen from Oriental Adventures.
A Wujen ninja.
Yes.
Disconnect Nick and Chad, please.
Okay.
Our next voicemail coming in.
At least he didn't suggest the rule cyclopedia.
Ugh. What an abomination.
Hey, I like the real encyclopedia.
Disconnect Chad right away now. Seriously.
I like it as well. It's got
Chad, you're fired. I don't want to see you on another show. Goodbye. Your contract's been ripped up.
Oops.
You've been future endeavored.
Yes. Good luck in your future endeavors.
Here's your one Electrum piece.
Yes. Next voicemail, guys.
Hey, guys. I was just listening to your most recent episode about AIM Magazine, and I was listening to the beginning where one of you mentioned that you hadn't read Lovecraft, which is perfectly fine. There is a lot of good stuff there, and of course, everything in the Appendix N is worth looking at. One of the things people that love reading Lovecraft led me to discover was Clark Ashton Smith, who was a contemporary, and he wrote fantastic stories with poetic descriptions, and in my opinion, it's better than Lovecraft, but neither here nor there. Two of his stories stand out as, you could almost say they were influenced by D&D, except for that he wrote them in the 30s. One is called The Tale of Satampra Zeros, which literally reads like as if someone had fictionalized a D&D adventure. Two guys who are thieves, down on the luck, go to a town, have rumors of where they can find treasure, go off in search of it, adventure ensues. Sound familiar? And then there's another one called The Seven Gaiuses, which I may be saying wrong, Gaiuses. So, where you can command someone to perform a mission, and if they don't, then their stats recede until they do. But in this story, The Seven Gaiuses, it's a character that initially is a hunter of a kind of a subhuman race of was a hunter of exotic things, which eventually led him to hunt this subhuman race. It's kind of like half human, half beast, which leads him to the opening of what is effectively a mega dungeon, and the perils that lie within. And there's so many more. And he wrote his stories in cycles, like there's the Zolthic cycle, the Everon cycle, there's the Poseidon cycle, there's but they're all fantastic, and so many of them could be used as fodder for a role-playing game, whether that be borrow from the setting, borrow from the monsters, borrow from the challenges, borrow from the character inspiration as NPCs, the races to come up against. There's so many things just littered throughout that would be fascinating additions, in my mind, to a D&D campaign or session, that even more so than Lovecraft, if you were going to read someone from the pulp era as a D&D fan, you got to start with Clark Ashton Smith. And the beauty of it is, all those stories are available online for free at www.eldritchdark.com. It's one word. But for sure, start with The Tale of Satampra Zeros if you haven't read it, because it's a straight-up D&D adventure written in 1929. So, y'all have a wonderful day. Love you guys. Love the show. And take care.
What do you think, Nick? You're the closest. You're our Lovecraftian fan here.
Hey, don't forget me.
Oh yeah, and Chad. Well, Nick is the first
one.
So, and Chad.
I would, Clark Ashton Smith, one of the key figures of the Lovecraft circle of writers during that period of pulp fiction writing. I mean, he's an Appendix N of the Dungeon Master's Guide, and all those stories you talked about. Yes, great stuff right there. I mean, Castle Amber from the BX series of modules is directly related to Smith's work, and if I remember correctly, the at the end of the module you can kind of go into the into that world that the module is set into, so you can definitely and was it the Avernong series? Well, I'm probably butchered that, but
like Avignon.
Avignon, yes, that's right, Avignon, and you could go into that. So I would say also the module B4 is kind of reminiscent of that. The Lost City is somewhat like Clark Ashton Smith's work. So, read up more on all this stuff out there if you haven't gone through Appendix N. I know someone in I forget what blog, but I just went through somebody's blog list of like different types of gamers, and he made up a blog where he's going through every single book he can find, story, book, whatever, of Appendix N, and read every single one. And I've been reading through the blog. I read through the blog. It's been pretty interesting stuff. So not all of it he liked either. I'm trying to remember. This was one of those days I was surfing through somebody's blog list. And I just happened upon that one. And that's one of those interesting tasks. I kind of looked at that too. It's like, maybe I can read through the whole Appendix N. I mean, I've read through some of it just because it's rather, some of it is well known, but some of it's kind of is a little obscure. It might be hard to find, so it makes it a quest in itself. So, but as far as Clark Ashton Smith, yes, fantastic work from that period.
Yeah, and it's interesting that he mentioned that Clark Ashton Smith's work is kind of poetic because Clark Ashton Smith was a poet. That's what he wanted to be. He hated writing, actually.
He did artwork too, didn't he?
Yeah, he ended his life, actually. He stopped writing prose, and I think near the end of his life he was just doing artwork.
Yeah, I think he was living out in California. Is that right?
I think so. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
but,
I think in the later part of his life he lived out in California and did his artwork out there.
Yeah, but initially though poetry was his driving ambition, and he actually was what he kind of thought of himself later on. He was kind of a depressed guy because they all were within that circle, but for him it was not schizophrenia or anything. It was just he was like he saw himself as potential lost because he really thought he was going to be the next Keats. He was compared, to people like Keats,
Keats,
as for his poetry
stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And he was also kind of a womanizer.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, he dated a lot of women, and usually they saw him as a guy who just wouldn't go out and make a living because he didn't really want to do that. He was an artist, but he did the prose. He did it because he had to put bread on the table, and he hated it.
I guess the three key figures out of the Lovecraft circle was Lovecraft himself, obviously, Robert E. Howard, and Clark Ashton Smith.
Robert Bloch was really in that group.
Robert Bloch later on, he was really young though when he got into that. He was just in his teens.
Yeah, and then later on there was August Derleth as well, and Ramsey Campbell, and
I do remember there was a story that they circulated amongst the circle.
Yeah, they each had to write a chapter. And I might be wrong in this, but there was a character that was kind of a little homage to Clark Ashton Smith
probably know what I'm talking about. The character Clackeshton.
Okay,
And
I know of what you're talking about, but
there's a character
called
called Clackeshton, and I think that was Robert E. Howard. He wrote that into a Conan story. This wizard by the name of Clackeshton, I believe. I might be wrong in it, but there was a character named Clackeshton, and it was a play on Clark Ashton Smith's name. So.
Well, and I would also like to say that I totally agree with him on the 7 Gaiuses. That's one of our Gaiuses.
Yes.
I always say Gaiuses, but that's a great story. And if you ever did want to translate the Cthulhu mythos into D&D, into a more fantasy realm, that's the one to go by. It's pretty cool because this guy basically he's a hunter, and his tribe or whatever sent him out, and he ends up getting these Gaiuses laid on him by people like Abhoth is one, and he meets Sathagura.
Source of all uncleanliness.
Exactly, and he meets Sathagura, and he ends up confronting Atlach-Nachi, the spider outer god, who eternally weaves a web, and you learn a little bit more about Azathoth, I think, in that one. But yeah, he goes out and he just and it's just kind of, it's really cool, and I know that website he's talking about too.
I found it interesting that. When I went through some of the stuff in Appendix M, and I really looked back, I said, you know what? I could see how Gary Gygax probably really had more of a pulp fantasy influence than Tolkien.
He was heavily. We talked a little bit about this in the first Dead Game Society podcast. He was very much influenced by the pulp. Vance was a huge influence.
Jack
on
Vance,
Oh yeah, Dying Earth. I mean, that's where magic users, a whole Vancian system magic. But yeah, he was definitely influenced by. I'm sure he was influenced by the whole, Lovecraftian circle.
Sure,
writers.
I mean, it's all in there, Appendix N. But it's just kind of cool that it's like he could have gone. I think Gary could have gone just one route and said, I'm going to go with the pulp fantasy. But you know what? There are people who like Tolkien type fantasy, and he was. I don't say he was, and Tolkien and Gygax wasn't like a huge fan of Tolkien, from what I understand. He liked it, but it wasn't like his favorite, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
He was more into the pulp fiction stuff, and he still made that a part of Appendix N. And I think that's, again, one of the beauties of D&D was you could go either way. You could go with the really dark, gritty pulp fantasy, sword and sorcery kind of route, or you could go with a more high epic, Tolkien or Terry Brooks later on, sort of Shannara kind of scenarios.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and
that's one of the great things of the game.
Yeah, and when you read stuff like Howard or Ashton Smith, they're not, or to some degree, I guess you could say maybe the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadith could fit in there, but for fantasy style mythos pulp. But they don't have these huge, high, overarching, reasons for going out and doing things. Oftentimes, they're curious, and they, Lovecraft. I think it was Kadath was the name of the story.
Yeah, Dream Quest. Yeah.
Well, no, not Dream Quest. It's the there's another one he wrote earlier, and it's just called Kadath.
Was it a poem?
No, it's a real short story. I think it's only 3 pages. But if you read Dream Quest, you are reunited with one of the characters from Kadath, because the high priest who tells Randolph Carter, don't go, and then Randolph Carter promptly gets him drunk.
Sure.
He's actually one of the 2 characters that tried to once climb they wanted to climb up to Mount Nagrak, I think it is, and they wanted to watch the elder gods who would occasionally come down to this point on the mountain and dance and frolic or whatever. But unfortunately for the guy that did make it up there, they're watched over by the outer gods.
Yeah, and that's not good.
And so nobody gets to see the elder gods. But he shows up again in Dream Quest of Unknown Kadith. But the point being is that they go on these adventures for nothing other than curiosity.
Curiosity, yeah.
And it kills the cat.
Yeah, or the character.
Exactly. But yeah, I totally agree with him. I think that Seven Geniuses is a must read by Clark Ashton Smith. It's, in my opinion, the best one he did.
Mm-hmm.
Hey now. Okay. Cool. Thanks, guys. We do have one more voicemail, and I'll play that right now.
Hey guys, this is Brian with Band Magazine. I just listened to episode 136, Artifacts. Really loved the discussion, but I'm absolutely disappointed in you guys. You left out the best artifact anybody ever invented, the head of Vecna. If you're not sure what that is, Google it. It's worth it.
Yes, we know what the head effect is.
The head of... And by the way, if anybody doesn't know what he's talking about, Knights of the Dinner Table did a years ago when the magazine, the comic book was first published, did a whole like strip on the hand of Vecna, and at the very end, it's like, oh, thank goodness we didn't find the head of Vecna. So,
what?
How about the foot of Vecna?
The foot of Vecna.
The big toe of Vecna.
The naughty bits of Vecna?
No. Nick.
I just said naughty bits.
Yeah. All right. So if you want to give us a call, 570-865-4210, the hotline, rfistaff@gmail.com. You can all find us on G+, on RFI Roll for Initiative Podcast. You can find us on Facebook.com/RFI Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, RFI Podcast, though it's just mostly for show announcements. Not going to be any real interaction with you. You can just follow for an update. And that's it. RFIpodcast.com is our website. OSR Gaming is our forums. Come join. Come chat with us. Nick even chats on the forum now, too.
Yeah, I do.
Bashing other forums.
Hey.
And
sometimes I like poking the bear. I'm sorry.
Yes, I know.
In this case, I'm poking the Otiug.
Yeah, definitely. Come join in on the fun and enjoy our show. And yeah, you can also find Matt on Twitter at Matt@twitter.com.
No.
Okay, I just want to see if Matt was awake.
I am here. Our topic for today is such a massive product that I've been actually going through it and reading more because, yes.
And we're just going to touch on it briefly.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So big.
Yes, it's big and massive and mega.
Yes.
And before we go on to our next segment, I have to say, that's what she said.
Oh. Your brain, right?
Yeah, that's it. Let's go into table manners.
Typical. Of all the evil creatures in the world, I'd like to find one with table manners.
What, are you kidding me? I spent years cultivating the worst table manners on the planet.
Table manners.
All right, here we are in table manners, everybody. And as we alluded to in the last segment, we're going to be talking about a mega dungeon and probably about one of the mega of mega dungeons.
And it's an OSR one, too.
Yeah, I think it's written for, I think, Adventures Dark and Deep. Is that right? Or is it
Adventures Dark and Deep?
Yeah, that's what I thought. But it's pretty much compatible with any edition of first edition AD&D or even basic D&D, or if you're playing, Labyrinth Lord or whatever, easily convertible. And we're going to be talking about Castle of the Mad Archmage by Joseph Block. Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yeah, he does say compatible with most OSR products, so you can pretty much put whatever one you want in there. It's easy to translate.
Absolutely. And as far as the size of this, it's huge. 13 levels. 13 levels, everybody, of dungeon crawling, yummy goodness with a rich, chewy nougat center, which will chew up your PCs. And I'll get to that in a little bit.
And plenty of crunch.
Oh, plenty of crunch.
But not only do you need the main book to play this game, which is where, for the DM, there's also the illustration book.
Yes, illustration book.
Yeah, but
and
don't
the
they
map.
say you have to have all 3 books to effectively play it?
You can get, if you could skip a book, it would be the illustration book, because that's there so you can show your players what they're seeing.
I agree. I don't think necessarily need that.
You absolutely need that map book.
You need that map book.
I would not want to try to map 32 pages of maps by myself just from reading the module.
No.
And the maps are really cool. You know, they're very traditional, old school style, and I think they're like. I have the. I'm looking at some. I don't have the physical book, so I'm thinking that it's. But I believe they're full page spreads, aren't they? On the maps?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking for the adventure book as far as the page count, 150 pages. And then you have for the map book is 32 pages of maps. And then another, I think, 32 pages of illustrations or something close to that.
33.
33 pages of illustrations. And the illustrations are for particular things that, and he did a really good job of this, of things that might seem a bit confusing if you just read a description. But as far as the breakdown of the mega dungeon, it's basically a homage to Gary Gygax's Castle Greyhawk campaign. And I would say Robert, we were talking about Robert Block last time. I said, I don't know if he's a relation, but Joe, if you're listening, you did some outstanding research on.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
The pictures remind me of, I don't know if you guys thought this. It seemed to me kind of reminiscent of oh man, I just was thinking of it. The killer module.
Tomb of Horrors.
Tomb of Horrors. Remember the pictures?
Yeah, actually, it does a bit.
Horrors?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does a bit. Absolutely. Yeah, the artwork is somewhat reminiscent of that.
Mm-hmm.
I like the illustration book just for the simple fact that the illustration books are very old school in that regard. So you have 13 levels. You have, and like I said, a homage to Castle Greyhawk and all other mega dungeons, but we're really talking Castle Greyhawk here, which is a half a day travel from the free city of Greyhawk in that campaign setting. So what he has outline here is you have the upper ruins, you have storage rooms, the deep cellars, then you get into the dungeons, the lower dungeons, the deeps. There's a labyrinth and a sub-labyrinth. Then probably my number one favorite and probably the possible TPK would be the crypts. Level 7, the crypts is probably definitely going to be most definitely.
Really? I was thinking level 11.
The greater caverns? Yeah, that's my next one too.
Yeah.
So you have the caves, the lesser caves, the greater caves, the lesser caverns, the greater caverns, which is, I believe, all dragons.
All dragons.
Yes,
and
all
dragon servitors.
Yes. And then there's the catacombs and then the maze. Now, one of the neat things about this particular product is that Joseph here, or I guess I'll call him, hopefully he doesn't mind, I'll call him Joe for short. What Joe did here is some general information about the dungeon, the location, where it is in respect to the surrounding areas, the overview of the dungeon levels. So you have the surface level, which is the upper ruins, and it's just the ruins of the castle. You have the storage rooms, which were once storage for provisions of the castle, and gives a brief description of what might be inside what will be inside each level. Then you have the deep cellars, which has barracks for the troops of the Mad Archmage at one time. You have the there's a great central shaft, begins on the level of the dungeons. There's a laboratory there. And it just goes on and on. Bullet points on each different level, like the crypts, level 7, my favorite, because this level is just chock full of undead. Either your clerics and paladins of your party are going to have a great time with the level 7, or they're going to flee in terror and run away like little scared school children.
Yeah.
And then you have what was Sean's favorite, level 11, which is basically
Sean?
Did I say Sean? I meant Chad.
Well, I didn't say that was necessarily my favorite. I said that's the one that will kill your people the fastest.
Yeah, it's the level where level 12 is actually the one where there's all the dragons, the catacombs.
Right, okay, it was level 12. I was thinking
and
level
then
11.
level 13, the maze, where the greatest mysteries of them all are there. Another thing I like about this one, it gives a description of like where all the different entrances to the dungeons may be. There's multiple entrances, not just on the first level, but you could get access either from level 1, 2, 3, or 6. So you could start off right in the middle of this thing if you wanted to, if you're a real evil GM, like somebody else on the podcast here. Vince, I'm talking to you.
Hey.
It also makes handy escape routes when you find you're getting your butt kicked and you need to get to the service really quick.
If you don't have a teleport, available, or, if you don't have rope trick spell available, let's get at least a level 6.
Yeah, and they do make a good point in there of saying that this is an adventure or a series of adventures that is supposed to also illustrate to the players why it's sometimes good to run.
Right. Yeah, there are definitely areas in this dungeon where it's better to run away and fight another day.
Well, I think you're supposed to go in and out of this dungeon as well, so you don't really want to rest in it. Because I was reading the beginning, it said it's not a very good idea. So
yeah, camping in the dungeon, that's the next section. Extreme care should be taken.
And they say it's fairly close to. They call the city Greyheim. Which you could, if you're setting your game in Greyhawk, you could easily say it's near Greyhawk.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, comparable to the first one, Nick, that you said you had originally gotten a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Or how does it match up to this newer edition?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point to bring up. There was about 4 years ago, Joseph did you would call a freeware version of this dungeon, and when he did it then, and when it was finally completed, it took him over a year to do. It took him, I would say, almost a year. It took him like 16 months to do.
Yeah, I think I saw an article. He was saying he consulted like over 1,000 different old school resources to make.
Yes, he did, and he did a fantastic job of doing that. Now, in comparison to the published one, yes, he had to take out all the references to World of Greyhawk because copyright infringement. Since now it's a published for-profit item now. But comparable to that, it's very, very similar. Not a whole lot has changed as far as the encounters are concerned. There are some subtle changes as far as like some names of monsters, like the Zvarts from Fiend Folio are called Zverts. Another one, the Grell of Fiend Folio is called a Beak Brain in this.
Yeah, and the Dragon Men, because you can actually find they're the Abashai in Monster Manual too.
Right. So the some of the references have changed, but that's okay. You read through it, it's like, okay, I know what this is if I'm converting this over to AD&D First Edition or whatever you're going to be playing. One of the things I did miss from his original one.
Right.
Versus the published is the little designer notes.
Okay.
That were initially in the non-published adventure. For example, when you're going into level 2, the deep cellars of Castle Greyhawk, I'm just going to call it Castle Greyhawk, this for the sake of argument. In Castle the Mad Archmage or Castle Greyhawk, there's a section called it's Encounter Area 18, and there's this statue. It's an 8-foot tall statue of an ape wearing a fez, squatting and holding a cup. And when you put a coin in the cup, it starts to make laugh like a chimpanzee or something, and your character will get a +1 on their next saving throw or to hit, whichever happens first, and you could do that once a day. And there's a little designer note, and it says, players familiar with the original Greyhawk campaign may think that this is somehow related to module WG6, Isle of the Ape. And that little designer note is not in the final published one. Another one on the same level, it's Encounter Area 43, where you have the city in a bottle. You come across in this room, on a pedestal, there's a large glass bottle. And when you look inside this glass bottle, there's a miniature city within the glass. And there's a designer note there where it alludes to Rob Kuntz's original Bottle City adventure. Mm-hmm. And that designer note's not in the final published one. I kind of missed that. I like the little designer notes from like, okay, in the original Greyhawk campaign, this is this reference here. I like that. It added a sense of history to the adventure, I think.
Well, you probably could, why you couldn't do that.
Oh, and I completely understand why. Because being a published adventure now, you could have put those sorts of things in, because it's for a profit adventure. Other than that, it's pretty much the same thing. The only really other difference is in the non-published one, he did not have the ruined castle and the storage rooms. It went right into the deep cellars level. So technically, the published one is more complete in that respect. So other than that, yeah, it's all the encounters are pretty much the same. I do like that level with the crypts. That's just amazing with all the undead, so that was one of my things I liked about it.
It's kind of cool too, and this is kind of like a designer note he put in, which he could still do, I think, in this case. I think it's level 9 or 10, 10 or 11. I think it's either the lesser or greater caverns. They have the white apes of Barsoom.
Yes, so you have that, which goes to your, John Carter Mars stuff.
Yeah,
but
and there's even...
Yeah.
Oh, keep going. Uh-huh.
Well, just one of the things I want to say is, like, he talks about, at the beginning, like, camping in the dungeon. What happens when your characters die in the dungeons? That's not a good thing either.
They get eaten.
Well, not just that. They might come back as
back as a pyre wraith or as a...
Hoikuva, a ghost.
All right.
Did he explain why that happens, or just that he decided that's what happens in his game?
Didn't explain why that happens. Must be something with
it probably has to do with the fact that he mentions one of the things he talks about is why would random creatures be cohabitating, and he says it doesn't matter because it happens because the Archmage is a god and he wants it that way.
Yeah, he's a demigod and he's mad. What else do you need to know?
Exactly.
I would also,
if you die there, you may come back and join his
one of the undead.
I read that part and I was sitting there going, okay, that's cool. I like the idea. I like that, but I just wanted, as a DM, not to know kind of why that happened.
Because the mad demigod made it that way.
And that's the only explanation I came up with, what you came up with. So I was
and you know what? I'm good with that. I mean, he's a demigod. It's like,
I thought maybe with the original one, he had like a little footnote for that.
No. Actually, if I look at the original, that little blurb about dying in the dungeons is not there. This is part, when he apparently did the published one, he put that little part in there. So that's not part of the original non-published adventure. Also, the little thing about quests in the dungeons too. If you don't want to just have just a hack and slash dungeon crawl, if you want to make it more thematic and you want to have some purpose of going into it, there's a whole list of different quests that your party could go into, as far as giving them a just for not it just being there, a sense of purpose of going into the dungeon, why they need to go into. And
he
gives
also
some,
writes that every person's adventure should be different. So you really, as the DM, you can write it out. You can omit certain creatures. You can add certain creatures. You turn it into your adventure.
Yeah,
And
you
so if
turn it in
somebody else
your
wants
own
it, it'll
version
be
of
different.
Castle. Yeah, it should turn into your own version of Castle Greyhawk. And any good DM will do that. I don't think any DM will just slavishly follow it to the letter. You're gonna tailor to your whole campaign how you want it. He also talks a little bit just on tournament play suggestions. Yes, throwing this in a tournament. So, just I guess if you want to run part of the Mad Demigod's Castle here at a convention, there's he gives some suggestions where the levels can start at, and then after that he talks about the Greyheim Construction Company Limited. Or
I wasn't
Greyhawk
into that.
Yeah.
What?
I wasn't really into that. I probably omit that from the game.
It
Thought
amused
that was a little
me.
bit too silly.
I found it horribly amusing.
I did too.
It's one of those things. Why are all these dungeons these players raid always complete? Why wouldn't they be in the middle of construction? Maybe even have some henchmen there actually slaving away building onto it. Yeah.
Oh, I like the idea of henchmen building. I just don't want to call them like the construction company.
Limited. Greyheim Construction Company.
Yeah, because they actually filed the proper paperwork and have their own company.
Right.
And then when the players want to build their own sort of stronghold, they know who to contact.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Goblins are sticklers.
Yes.
What I look at it is? I looked at it as a nice little tongue-in-cheek kind of, just a little bit of humor, thrown in there. And I like that.
Plus, it is a mad Archmage. He might actually have all these safety regulations for the construction company.
Yes.
That's right. They better be wearing
He is
their
a mad
hard hats.
Archmage. Come on.
Right, he's mad. Of course he's going to have construction tape and orange barrels.
Yeah.
Why not? You know what? There is one other thing I liked about this adventure, and the whole thing as it is could actually be a hook that makes sense into Dungeon Land, because I think
I
on
was
the
going to
same
mention that. Yes.
Yeah, it's a perfect end for that, but I'll let you go into why. But
Yeah, there is, because in the original Castle Greyhawk campaign, what you were talking about, Chad, was Dungeon Land and Land Beyond the Magic Mirror modules EX1 and EX2, and why they're called EX, because they are extensions of Castle Greyhawk. There is in the original the original version of this that was for the free version of the adventure is I don't remember where it is. I'll have to dig through, but there are areas where he has in designer notes where you can link this to where the adventuring party can end up in EX1 and EX2. There's one area where that can happen. So unfortunately, that's kind of taken out of the final published one. But I think if you read through it, you'll see where that area is, and if you want to link it, you can. Because I think it says you end up in the world of Alice in Wonderland, and anybody will go, aha! That's where Dungeon Land comes into play. So, yes, in that respect, you can do that. There are, not only with Dungeon Land can you link this, you can link this, like I said, with Isle of the Ape. And I'm trying to remember, there was a city in a bottled city, and there was one other one I can't quite recall. There might be a link to it. But at least those you can have all these different little side adventures and get your party lost and frustrated and are like, how do we leave and get back to the original dungeon? So
I thought of something, another link. I'm sorry, but there's a hermit in there And I think he's also down around the Greater Caverns or something like that.
Yes,
he's down
yeah,
around.
there's like 2 hermits.
Yeah, well, he reminded me of the hermit from Keep on the Borderlands.
You know,
what if it's the same hermit? And
it's the same hermit, yeah.
What if you read B2, Keep on the Borderlands, you may or may not remember that there's not just the Caves of Chaos. They allude to another place, the Cave of the Unknown, which is close to where the hermit lives.
You could link it to that. Yeah, I can't see why not.
Mm-hmm.
That would be really, really cool to do that.
I think that'd be kind of fun. You know, you make it the same hermit. Yeah.
It could be the same hermit. And what was he? If I remember, Keep on the Borderlands, doesn't a hermit like live in this like huge hollowed out tree?
Yeah, you see a picture of him sticking his head out.
Yeah,
hollowed out tree.
Maybe you go into his tree and you take these stairs down, and you're ending up in.
And he's mad too. He's a mad.
Oh yeah.
What if he's an avatar?
Avatar. I just thought of that. Sick minds think alike. What if he's an avatar?
And what if you get lost? And he's the only guy that, you meet the mad hermit down there, and he promises he knows a way out. And if he does, if he for some reason gets you out, you come out the entrance of the Cave of the Unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's just some thoughts I had.
Yeah, that's some really good stuff. There's a lot of different ways you can link this whole. I mean, it's a campaign. You can make it part of a larger campaign. What I was alluding to even earlier in the show is I'm making this part of a Greyhawk campaign. I'm doing it because it's going to be primarily a city campaign in the city of Greyhawk, but a half a day's travel right down the road is Castle Greyhawk. So not only are you going to have political intrigue in the city, if they want to go dungeoneering for a while, they got Castle Greyhawk right there. So I'm thinking, hey, best of both worlds. So this is going to be very, very cool. I cannot wait to do this.
Oh, definitely.
And then you get to, yes, we all talked about all the different levels. But also you have, at the end, you have the appendices. And there's an appendix for different rumors about the castle, what might be in there, and which ones are true or false. Then you get into new magic items, which is great. So he has a whole liturgy of different magic items, like these what are the magical mystery forks. They're actually magical tuning forks that you can find throughout all of the dungeons.
If anything, the appendix is great for stealing ideas from.
Oh yeah. The Altarian battle armor. Did you get the reference to the person who Thomas Newton? Did you get the reference to that at all? Did any of you guys get the reference?
Actually, I was thinking Legion of Gold from Gamma World when I saw that, which, by the way, could be another link.
Thomas Newton, David Bowie, Man Who Fell to Earth.
Oh, okay.
The name of his character was Thomas Newton.
Oh, fun.
So
I was actually thinking that could be yet another hook if you wanted to do as they talk about in the DMG. You could hook it into Gamma World.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is an area here where you could basically end up in Gamma World. Well, some of the other, the Eternal Candles, those are cool little magical items. So it looks like about a 6-inch tall wax candle. You light it, and it will burn eternally and will not consume the wax. So it's a pretty cool magic item. You got the Oil of Monster Attraction.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yes, let's see, Ring of Strength, which is kind of like
a Girdle of
Giant Strength.
Or Gauntlets of Ogre Strength, I see.
Yeah. And the Staff of the Dragon.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one too. I like that one. It ties in. It's a lot like the Staff of Striking.
Yeah. But it gives you, but its head releases a breath weapon.
Exactly.
And then all the new monsters. Just a few off the top of you have animated armor that you can fight, which is kind of cool. New types of giant beetles.
Yeah.
Couple new a new demon and a new devil that you could run into here.
Couple
Got a were badger.
Were badgers, yes.
No rare manta rays.
No rare manta rays or were flumps. But you can run into flumps in here, maybe.
Well, I like the descriptions when I'm reading some of the descriptions of like the major demon baddie. I keep thinking it's a loose translation of Jubilex.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, some of the actual references to AD&D, like you saw some name changes of monsters and stuff like that. It is Jubilex.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But they also
that's who they're talking about. Yeah.
You know how they talk about the high? I think it's on the second or third level. There's the high priest of the Demo Arc or something like that.
Demogorgon.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that's Demogorgon.
Demogorgon.
If you wanted an adventure to stick your Cthulhu mythos into, I think this would be a good one.
There are areas you could do it.
Yeah, aside from the Forgotten Temple at Therisden, this would actually because everything's mad here. You could have this whole. What if the Archmage himself is powerful, but there's even other what if they met Yog Sothoth at some point?
Oh, now that's just mean.
Or, okay, you could be nice and make it Umar a Twill.
He also introduces a new type of fairy creature called the Goric.
Yeah,
and they're kind of integral to a couple of levels. So those are cool. I also like that he has Norkers in here. There's Norkers in this dungeon. It's one of those monster races I've always had I've always enjoyed them. Yeah, they're another form of hobgoblin, but what the heck?
Yeah, I don't think the only time I've seen Norkers was in the Lost Caverns of Sajkanth.
Yeah,
which maybe you could tie into
Tharizdun in there too.
Yeah, well, Tharizdun is actually an extension of Sajkanth.
Yes, it is.
And there's no reason why you couldn't link those into it.
Sure.
I definitely. There's a part in Lost Caverns of Sajkanth where you can chase after the Norkers, and there's even a construction crew of Norkers, if I remember correctly. Yes. They're miners, and if you were to follow them, I believe, who's to say you wouldn't end up in one of these levels?
Yeah, who knows? That could happen. One of my favorites is this greater skeleton.
Oh yeah, it reminded me a little bit of a skeletal warrior, except
but it takes its head off and throws it and then explodes. So that's pretty cool. I like that. And
now is that a one-time attack or?
I think so. Then you have I also like he put in the George Romero zombies. There's plague zombies in here. I love that. And you have, they're just zombies. I'm going to turn them. How come they're not going? Oh, and you hear them all say brains. So, yeah. So you got plague zombies in here. So that's just a smattering of the different types of new monsters you have. You also in Appendix D have special random encounters that you might have, and I like this. There's a couple of them here that I want to bring up. Is one, there's this creature called Quicksilver.
Yeah.
And Quicksilver is this, I don't know if it's a man or an automaton, but it's made of a pure silvery metal, and his face is covered with gems and rubies and diamonds and stuff like this. And your characters from one time or another will see this thing called Quicksilver, and there's all this legend and rumor about it in the lands around the castle about this of adventurers who've seen Quicksilver, but they can never catch it because it's so fast. There is a reference. This is a reference to the original Castle Greyhawk campaign. I looked it up on Grodog's Greyhawk's website. You know what I'm talking about, Grodog?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you go to his website, Grodog's Greyhawk, in his research, and he's done some great research because on Castle Greyhawk and everything tied into it. There was this particular creature that Gary Gygax made, and I think he originally was made of gold, but they can never catch this thing. It was always too fast. You see it zipping around corners and the rooms and stuff, and it leads people on chases. And this is a good way to get your player characters to get them to chase this thing and maybe go into areas that they probably shouldn't. So, yeah, that's another thing that alludes to the original Castle Greyhawk. And then I believe the Grey Monks are another one. There's these mystical humanoid monks that keep roaming around the dungeons, and that was originally in the Castle Greyhawk campaign as well. So,
one thing I thought was actually kind of funny, and it was the big mushroom cavern, right?
Yes.
Okay, I actually a couple of years ago, it's almost identical to a room I created for the Tower of Gygax. I made what I called it the Twilight Garden, and it was one big cavern, and it had every type of, everybody who submitted a room for Tower of Gygax had a theme, and mine was all mushroom, vegetable matter type threats, and so as I was reading this, I was like, oh my gosh, I could totally run this room.
And
that was just kind
funny
of
that you mentioned fungus and fungi. Is the next section is Appendix E, new spells. And this was weird. There's some spells that are just kind of, charm fungus.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's a very good one if you meet if you happen to meet myconids.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, again, I did the same thing in mine.
Fungus friendship is another spell. Yeah, fungus friendship, locate fungus. But there's some other spells like Hellblades.
Doom Pit.
Which is Doom Pits, which are cleric spells, by the way. Nether Beast, which is a 9th level magic user spell. Speak with fungus. Okay. I don't know what a mushroom would say. It's dark in here.
You got to think of it like
good. I don't know.
You got to think of it like more than that. You could want to converse with the myconids, for instance, and myconids don't normally speak with voice. They tend to
speak with the pheromone thing,
right?
Right. But there's some interesting new spells that Joe's put in here, and I like also the last Appendix F is a list of different NPC adventuring parties that you might come across. So when it comes up in the random encounters and it's NPC adventuring party, boom, he already has them made up at the back of the adventure. You can just pull them up right there, which is great. I love that.
Yeah, and there's some really cool. I like the fact that he's got. It's not everything you meet is bad. If up in the upper layers, like the cellars, I think there are the. Actually, it's in the cellars. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the cellars.
You have both. You have a community of dwarves as well as a community of elves living there.
Yeah.
Which, if I were to run this, I like backstory. I like organization. So I'd probably say I would probably make it that they are trying something like Moria, the mines of Moria. Maybe the upper layers have been reclaimed between the elves and the dwarves, and then the middle layers are kind of barren still up for grabs, and then you finally get down to the bottom, and it's inhabited by all the orcs and hobgoblins.
You bring up actually you bring up a really good point. I'm glad you reminded this. I wanted to bring this up in this. Mega dungeon, there are areas where there's different factions inside different areas of the dungeon. Like I just give an example, near the upper levels, you have factions of orcs and goblins and gnolls, and you can maybe pit those different factions against each other.
Oh yeah, and there's constant mention.
You also have the arena level too.
Yeah, you have the arena level where the different factions actually have a kind of a temporary truce, and they kind of hash out their problems through good old one-on-one violence. But another thing, he mentions a lot of this is smart players, rather than killing everything they meet, will actually try to turn factions against each other.
Yeah, or even negotiate your way through, even with, hey, you might have to negotiate. No, I can't
negotiate.
Negotiate your way through maybe all one of the factions on the arena level. Because the arena level, which is very interesting in the fact, is there's these factions of different colors. There's blue, green, red, purple, what have you. And they're a mishmash of different humanoid creatures on that level. And if your party isn't strong enough, you might have to do a little parlay with one of these factions to maybe get through an area.
Yeah, maybe your toughest fighter represents, look, we got this guy. Here's what I'll do. Give us safe passage through, and so will fight on your behalf in the next great game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's. It's not just hack and slash through this adventure. It's really a campaign, but there are some great role playing opportunities that you can produce as a good dungeon master, by far. So. All in all, if we're going to go with are we going to go with our swords?
Yes, swords. Yep.
So I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 swords. 4.5 out of 5 swords. Just the half sword loss for the loss of all the different editors' notes, the designers' notes that I thought were kind of cool. Other than that, it's fantastic. Can't say anything else about it. Just it's a fantastic adventure. You got my endorsement.
Oh, definitely pick this up and take a look at it. It'd be a perfect adventure to run. Very thorough. A lot of reading to do. A lot
of reading.
Yeah.
I think if you get your hands on the original one, like Nick does, which I don't think he has distributed anymore due to copyright issues.
Right.
If you can get your hands on that, it'd be great to see it, just to see the little footnotes.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, and Nick is not sharing it because it's his precious. So,
my precious man.
No, I'm kidding. I'm going with a 4 out of 5 stars, really, because I haven't seen the other. But it's perfect.
Yeah,
I don't have any flaws with it. There's no typos. There's no problems reading it. So, I mean, Joe, as usual, does a wonderful job whatever he puts out. So,
he did his homework.
Matthew.
I'm going in that 4.5 range as well. For me, the one drawback, I don't like the idea of having the map book separate.
Yeah.
I wish that was just all part of the same package. Because really, the way this looks like, it's more of a box set than a single book. Because you have your 3 different books, and I think that's the way to look at it. The way it's divided up on Drive-Thru-RPG, you're buying the 3 books of the box set separately as opposed to just having it all together in one bundle. I'd kind of rather just have everything put together in one as opposed to having to jump back and forth between PDFs.
Right.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a 4 swords, and the only things I think it's great. I just wasn't, some of the tongue-in-cheek stuff I thought was just a little too kind of, I don't know, cutesy tongue-in-cheek for my taste. And again, I kind of agree with Matt. I would have liked to have seen it not in a 3-book set. I don't know if we needed 3. I'd like to have seen an appendix at the back with the maps. I probably would have, at least for the illustrations, I could have, because with the big layout for the maps, I could see its own book. But I'd like to see the illustrations probably could have been put in an appendix in the back.
Could have been, yeah, they could have been done.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why he's a separate
maybe
book.
That's something, if Joe's listening, maybe that's something he could recommend doing on the next time. Maybe he can revise that, have it all as one product. I don't know.
But otherwise, I think
we're giving feedback.
Yeah, it's good feedback, and I'm sure once we tell Joe the show is up, he'll take a listen, and probably I'll let him know there's some questions we had at the end, and he can listen to it and get back to us maybe with a nice email. Joe, how about that?
But if you're looking for the old school feel, this is definitely it.
Yeah, and as far as the historical stuff is real world kind of Castle Greyhawk. Boy, Joe did some fantastic research and all the different little encounters that were part of the original Greyhawk campaign, and just hats off to him. That it makes you feel like, hey, I have a product that that was part of that history, and you can maybe relive some of that in your own campaign. I love that.
Cool. So I guess that's going to wrap up the show this week.
I guess so, and I'm going to use this in my campaign, like I said. I'll let you know how it goes. I can't wait to do it.
Yeah, let us know. And if you have a product you want us to take a look at out there that is compatible with First Edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons or one of the clones, we'll take a look at it and review it on the podcast for you, just like we did with Joe's product right here. So give us a call, 570-865-4210, or write rfistaff@gmail.com and submit your product idea and with a copy of it for us so we can all read it, and we'd appreciate it. So say keep it original, keep it old school. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.
The Roll for Initiative podcast is a production of Wild Games Productions in association with D20Radio.com. You can visit us at rfipodcast.com or contact us on our forums at osrgaming.org or even by calling us at 570-865-4210. This podcast is produced for entertainment purposes only. All other uses are prohibited. And remember, if your magic missile spell doesn't automatically hit, you're playing the wrong edition. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative.